Hi, I'm Andrew Tsao. In this online edition of Backstory, we're going to give you a preview of the documentary Citizen Mayor. Filmmakers Coy Walker and Terrence Dai followed 8 candidates through the 2009 Seattle mayoral election. Thank you for being here on Backstory. Welcome. So this film is such a Seattle story, of course, because it follows the mayor's race in 2009. And I'd like to start by asking first, what inspired you to pick this story as a documentary film?
Actually, I was invited to make the film because during the school, taking the independent filmmaking class,
Right, yeah.
one of our subject that we were interviewing, Elizabeth Campbell,
Okay.
she privately told me that she was thinking about running for Seattle mayor and asked me if we would be interested in documenting it. I said, wow, that's a great opportunity. So but we didn't really have any experience, but it was a great opportunity that I couldn't turn down.
So the idea for the documentary came out of taking a class in documentary filmmaking here at UW.
At the UW, yes, while we were still taking the class.
Okay. Now, you knew you had to follow these candidates over an extended period of time. And you also, since you're following candidates, you have to go where they are and follow things as they happen. What were some of the unexpected things that happened on the road to making this film?
There weren't a lot of unexpected things, but there were a lot of things that we learned, or at least I learned, that there are so many passionate people out there really wanting to make a change. Because I came from a very non-political background. I really didn't have any interest in politics, sort of. So this was a very new field. An area that we had no knowledge about. Didn't know any of those people, even Mike McGinn, maybe he was a big name in the local, Sierra Club.
Right, an attorney, right.
Big, yeah, people with a lot of, recognition. I didn't know any of them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's a big learning experience.
What about getting access to the subjects and the people you were following? Did you find they were open to this? Because in today's political world, I think all politicians know how powerful the media is, and the wrong kind of image can really impact what it is they're trying to do. Talk a little bit about how you create a relationship with these candidates so you could gain their trust.
I think Coy did most of that. I think we gained access to them originally. I don't think it was too difficult. I think most of them were cooperative. But the difficulties actually come in not the first interview, but the subsequent interviews. Originally, we want to interview them every few weeks to see how they are doing, and as the campaign progressed. But later on, we didn't really they didn't give us a whole lot of time after the first interview.
I see.
And some candidates never responded at all. Like we never did get Mayor Nichols.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I actually contacted all of them. I made all the arrangements.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mike McGinn, Mayor Mike McGinn was very receptive.
Yeah, he seemed to be really at home with
he was
having
very
you there.
easy to approach. We met at a coffee shop. Norman was very easy to approach. The only person who was really hard to approach or even get a hold of was Mr. Malahan.
Oh, I see.
Other than Mayor Nichols, of course.
I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that McGinn was able to touch people and win the race. You wonder a little bit.
That was totally visible during
you
the
could
campaign.
feel that he was
we
connected to
totally,
the city and the people in a way that the other candidates might not be.
That was very evident during the campaign.
That is absolutely fascinating. And how many months in the making of the film? From beginning, you said you thought of the idea when you were taking the class, and then you followed the candidates, and then you finally had to do a lot of post-production, I'm sure, because of the amount of footage you had. What was the time frame for this?
We did start the process while we were still taking the class.
Yes, okay.
Because, I think Elizabeth approached me around February or something, and the class didn't finish until June. So I started approaching, I remember the meeting with Mayor McGinn was in April.
Okay.
So.
And all the way up to the election?
All the way to the election, and the editing was after the, editing throughout the time, especially right after the primary. I started editing. And the inauguration was in January.
Right.
So after that, we started wrapping up. And it didn't finish until probably March.
So we're talking about more than a year.
More than a year, yes. The total process was more.
That's quite a project. Well, now let's take a look at the trailer for Citizen Mayor.
I want to become mayor of Seattle. That's my goal.
What'll happen is the media will gravitate to the people that they think are most viable, and it's going to be the people with the money.
I'm not a wealthy woman. I can't do that. I can't buy an election.
I am ready. We're having a great time.
Thank you, James Donaldson. Thank you.
Campaigns aren't about the candidate, they're about the voters.
Many people scratching their heads saying, who are these guys? Team for communications, we have a team for our field outreach.
I approached him with my spiel. I'm Norman Ziegler, I'm running for mayor of Seattle. I'm out here collecting signatures to get my name on the ballot in lieu of a filing fee. And his response was, we already have a president.
Time, wish I had more time.
How much money do I need? Well, it depends on how well I do with the vision and how well I do with the volunteers.
Sometimes we do have hiccups and problems because it is volunteer.
They've got money. Oh, goodness, they've got money.
Well over $1 million was spent just in the primary.
Getting more expensive.
You know, all these downtown business people, labor unions, they're getting everything they want. Maybe we should have somebody who will put the pin next to that balloon a little bit.
I did not think it could happen.
We have the lead right now. We have the lead right now. We're not taking anything for granted.
One of the things about documentary is you don't know the ending, right? You have to take the ending that you get. That's kind of remarkable. Did you think that he was going to win?
We
I didn't.
had, well, because I got to know all the candidates and knew the passion of the people behind each candidate or the lack of.
Yeah.
So it was like written on the wall. So.
Well, tell me this. In this film, as I look at it, the city of Seattle is actually a character. And you have a lot of visuals that are in between and underneath the story that tells us a little bit about that central character in the film. How did you decide on what I consider is a very interesting visual style for putting everything together, from interviews to taking us out into the city to seeing daily life?
I think the cinematographer, Terrence, should have a good comment on that, because most of the interesting visuals are probably by Terrence.
Okay.
Well, I live in Seattle for 20-some years, and so I know quite a few of the scenic spots. And I've been involved in photography for quite a while, basically just amateur photography, but landscape and so forth is kind of my interest. So I kind of had an idea of where would be the good shots and what time of the day or even what time of the year to go and get the right light.
Now that's an interesting point, because I did see you were very, very careful in how you put those images together, and you said you actually would wait for a certain season or when you knew that the location would look its best.
Yep.
And so did you already know how you put them together in the grammar of the film, or were you out collecting material as you went, in between interviews, for example?
I was mostly just trying to get stunning visuals.
Okay.
And I think Coy is the one that select them and put them together.
Okay, and you had a lot of material to work with, it sounds
Right,
like.
so it was during the editing phase to pick, what some of the beautiful scenes. The goal was really to highlight the beauty of Seattle.
Yes.
I think, that was the primary.
Yeah. Well, in making a film like this, again, because you don't know the end and you're following this, what surprised you most in your experience over a course of a year making a film like this?
Personally, I think how close it was. The final results in the final election kind of surprises me.
I know you showed the statistics in the film, but it was razor thin,
Yes.
the margin of victory,
very-
right? I mean, because they had to delay the actual count and final decision on who was the winner.
Right.
And I'm surprised how much work McGinn's volunteers still put in after the election.
Right.
They were calling people to make sure all the votes are counted. Didn't matter who they vote for, but they just want to make sure that their vote would be counted, validated, and so forth.
Now, I saw that scene in the film where you did see the McGinn volunteers actually going through and calling each person and actually saying, we're not trying to say, did you vote for our candidate, but did you vote and who did you vote for? Did every candidate do that?
I'm not sure.
That was a
don't think
McGinn, a McGinn office.
That was definitely, yeah.
That's really amazing.
And another surprising factor was how easy it was to get into place if you had a camera. They just think, oh, you're from the power of the media. Yes, okay, you know, you're from the media. Go in.
Now,
That's how I got into the Nichols campaign kickoff, actually.
Were you surprised how you were treated in that regard?
It was treated
I mean,
differently,
suddenly you
too.
felt like,
Exactly.
wow, I'm Coy and I'm Terrence and we're making our documentary, but suddenly we're in a position of some influence in the room.
Exactly. We were given access.
Right.
If I didn't have a camera, I was not going to be going
That's
into Nichols' campaign kickoff. Yeah, but I had a camera, so they said, "Oh yeah, you're from the media." I didn't even ask for ID or anything.
That's fascinating. Now, Terrence, you mentioned that you've been living in and around this area for 20-some years. Will the two of you work again on more stories that have a Seattle connection in that way? How do you see yourselves going on the next step as documentary filmmakers?
We keep talking about ideas.
Now, you don't have to give it away if you don't want, but we're just, we're so interested in this program about, people making different projects here in Seattle in the Northwest, and, it's wonderful that it came out of a class here at the University of Washington. So give us a little hint of what you might be thinking about coming up.
Well, I think both of us now still hold down a day job, so budget and time is limited.
Right.
So I think by necessity it would be Seattle area would be our first choice of any new projects. But we also realize in this film, well, by doing this film, is that it takes a lot of energy and time. So we would like to have some interesting story to tell before we invest our time and energy into it.
Right.
Well, we certainly look forward to it. Coy, I want to thank you so much for being here. Terrence, thank you. Absolutely wonderful and fascinating project. I'm Andrew Tsao, and you're watching Backstory, and I'll see you again behind the scenes.